What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here of the Bottom Line View, and I'm in class. My phone starts blowing up, and Aqib Talib has been traded from the Denver Broncos to the LA Rams to reunite with his good old buddy Wade Phillips, his old defensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos. Aqib Talib has been traded from the Broncos to the LA Rams. He's reunited with Wade Phillips. He's going to tag team and be across from Marcus Peters in the secondary of LA. And then, of course, we've had so much movement with the LA Rams. They've just traded Ogletree yesterday. They traded Robert Quinn to the Dolphins. They got Marcus Peters. They got Aqib Talib. There's a lot of movement in the LA Rams situation. Of course, we've also heard rumors of there was a lot of madness yesterday about the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seattle Seahawks are now going through their own phase of trades, and they've traded Michael Bennett away to the Philadelphia Eagles, which we already discussed that in a previous video. If you haven't checked that out, go check it out. And there was all this talk about that and the Sherman situation, and the Broncos and the Seahawks are sort of in similar situations. They're in somewhat of not quite rebuilding, but kind of revamping their roster. They're sort of going through this rebuilding stage where they are having to trade some of their bigger contracts, some of their older veteran players away to get rid of some salary cap, to retain some players, and to move into a new era of their football team. We've seen these Super Bowl champions of 2013, 2015 Broncos and Seahawks. They're now moving into this new generation. Now, Aqib Talib, getting into the nuts and bolts of the trade. Aqib Talib has been traded from the Broncos to the Rams for a 5th-round draft pick this season. That's it. A lot of other trades have been pretty much like a 4th and a 6th for a 7th and a 5th and this is just a 5th for Aqib Talib straight across the board. Nothing else really involved. A lot of the other trades have been a lot more complicated, so it's nice in that way. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I am live here. What do you guys think about this trade? Do you guys think that the Broncos needed to make this trade out of necessity because, one, Talib wanted to play somewhere else where he could win, and two, they needed to get rid of the contract, and then also, if you're a Rams fan, are you happy to have Aqib Talib? Also, I'll be reacting this in terms of my Patriots point of view, but first, how does Aqib Talib fit into the LA Rams? So I think Aqib Talib is going to be a great fit for the Rams. Other than the Patriots, this is just as good of a situation for him. He pretty much made it known to the Broncos that he rather wanted to be traded to the Rams or the Patriots. That's why this trade was facilitated. That's why this trade happened, and that's why it now exists, is because Aqib Talib said, if you're going to trade me, because remember the original report about Aqib Talib was, hey, I want to be released so I can go sign with the Patriots. But the trade, basically he told them, if you can't trade me to the Patriots, trade me to the Rams. Or if you can't trade me to the Rams, trade me to the Patriots. So either way, he wanted to be traded to one of these two teams. There's a couple of things going into this. One, Wade Phillips, obviously. The obvious thing here, Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator of the Broncos, back in basically Talib's prime years, 2015, 2016, even a bit of 2014, Aqib Talib, stud corner for the Broncos. Just one of the top, if not the top corner in the NFL during the 2015-2016 seasons. And a lot of that had to do with the way that Wade Phillips would scheme him, the way that he would move him around, the matchups that they would give him. And I think that, Wade Phillips knows the strengths, knows the weaknesses of Aqib Talib. And yes, he's not quite the same guy that he was in 2015, but he's still a very good corner. In my opinion, he's still a top 15 guy. He's still an upper echelon #1 guy. And this, to me, tells me even more what they plan to do in their secondary. They plan to play man coverage. They plan to get after the quarterback. They plan to blitz the quarterback. And now that they have that, they have two really good corners. At least we know that Marcus Peters is going to be really good. Aqib Talib is 32, so he could maybe take a slight decline, but he's still going to be good in my book. And then you have Aaron Donald as the ultimate chess piece up front, which they need to sign desperately. They don't really have the pass rushers that they had last year, losing Robert Quinn. We'll see who they bring in to replace him. But now we're going to have a scheme that revolves around man press coverage with 2 physical corners on the outside. We have Aaron Donald to rush the passer, and the LA Rams are going to be aggressive on defense, and that's the way Wade Phillips likes to play it. So I think Wade Phillips, bringing in a guy like Aqib Talib, can bring that swagger to this team, bring that leadership to this team. And not only is Talib a great football player, but he's also, he's kind of a head case, but he's going to be great in the locker room. He's going to be a great character guy. He's going to be a guy that can elevate this team in terms of leadership and confidence. And he's been there before. He's been there with the Patriots. He's been there with the Broncos. And Wade Phillips knows how to get the best out of him. So I think this is a great trade for the LA Rams. The Broncos, from their point of view, they had to do it. They had to do it because they needed the money. I don't know if they're going to still pursue Kirk Cousins. I think that's kind of out of the door. I think they're probably going to pursue a Case Keenum at quarterback, maybe go draft one as well. But I think the Broncos are sitting in a situation where they could realistically still be a playoff team this year if they make a couple of things happen. If they get good quarterback play, if they improve their offensive line, you could be talking about the Broncos as a playoff team. Now, I don't expect that to happen, but I don't think that this trade completely means that the Broncos are done by any means. I'll just put that out there. They still have Chris Harris at corner. They still have a lot of talent on defense. They still have the man Von Miller. So they're not really going – it's not going to really hurt them too much. You know, Talib is a guy that's been a fan favorite in Denver. He's been one of the best players in Denver for a number of years. But it still doesn't change, I think, their situation as a franchise. Now, so I've covered it from the Broncos, the Rams situation. Of course, the other team that was involved was my New England Patriots. As I've been hearing, and I was in class while this whole trade broke, so I kind of like had to read some articles. AC kind of filled me in. I went over some Twitter. So from what I've heard is the Patriots were in with trade talks. They were initially the team that started the trade talks because of Talib, and they were the team first in trade talks with the Broncos. The Rams came after. So what ended up happening was the Broncos and the Patriots kind of got in a stalemate. And then the Rams came in because they heard that, you know, Talib would also go to the Rams because of Wade Phillips. So they made that trade with the Rams because, one, the Broncos are rivals with the Patriots. That's one reason. And two, we never know. You know, the Rams could have offered more. We may never find out that the Patriots offered more. Of course, now the 2 days in a row, the Patriots could have had Michael Bennett and Aqib Talib, and now they're stuck with none of them. So as a Patriots fan, that sucks. And as a Patriots hater, if you're out there, that probably rocks. But from a Patriots point of view, I'll answer your questions when it comes to that. But that's kind of the 3 sides of the story. The Rams get their guy. The Rams have Talib. He's reunited with Wade Phillips. The Broncos had to move on from Talib because of contract situations, but I don't think that keeps them out of the running of a team that can be relevant. And then the Patriots are kind of the losers of the last 2 days, losing out on 2 trades that they could have potentially had and 2 targets and 2 positions that they do need. So that's my analysis on that. Let's get to these questions. Hot Take Hockey says thumbs up or thumbs down. It's definitely a thumbs up. Kill'em Boys says, what's up, Mitchie? Mitch, do you think Richard Sherman goes to the Pats? To be honest, I don't really think he's going to. And there's a couple of reasons. Like, I've sort of changed my mindset over the last day, and that's not because I wouldn't want him on the Patriots. I would want him on the Patriots, but I think there are a couple of things. Obviously, we've brought it up before. He doesn't quite fit the system. We've talked about it, myself, AC, Dylan. We've talked about it, how he is a cover 3 guy. He's played in that Seattle system his whole career. He'd probably be more confident going somewhere. It takes the Rams out of the running because I thought the Rams would have been one of the teams that could have potentially had him. But San Francisco could be a team. I could see Jacksonville being a team, even though they don't necessarily need him. Oakland. I think there's a number of other teams that could be suitors for Richard Sherman, but I also think the thing about Richard Sherman to think about is he could be a guy to not necessarily go to a team and like right away. He could be a guy that maybe sits out for a while because of his injuries, because maybe he takes a little bit more time to decide where, you know, the Seahawks have to decide, and maybe teams around the league are going to decide, and maybe he doesn't get traded. So the reports are that he isn't going to get traded. He's going to get released. So that being said, that allows more kind of control in Richard Sherman's case and in the team's case. So that means that Richard Sherman is going to, maybe take a little bit longer to decide where he wants to go. And that also means that teams around the league aren't going to be in such a hurry to acquire him because he is injured. He's still injured. He's still recovering. He's not 100%. We can't put him through drills at this point in time. So maybe Talib doesn't sign till the middle of summer. So maybe Talib is a guy that doesn't sign till July. And maybe teams like the Patriots would rather get out in front of it, sign a different guy. Like maybe they're in the market now for Tremaine Johnson or EJ Gaines or somebody else. I've also heard Tyrann Mathieu is on the trade block, so that could be another guy that they try and go after. But I mean, there's a lot of factors playing into the Richard Sherman case, which makes it very interesting. But just from that standpoint, I think the Patriots might go somewhere else. I thought it was going to be Talib. I really did. But obviously some things happened there. So Hot Take Hockey said Mitch is on fire lately. Well, thanks, bro. Michael says my Saints are talking to Wilkerson. I saw that he was going to go talk to them. So I think still number one up on the list is the Packers, but I'm really happy to see that the Saints are going to talk to Wilkerson, because I think the Saints are a team that in the NFC, they are a contender. They're a team that's a couple moves away from being a Super Bowl team. And I think that Muhammad Wilkerson would definitely be an addition that would upgrade their team. They really need help on the defensive line. They can't just rely on Cameron Jordan. The Nick Fairley situation is kind of an awkward one. And then I think you also need to add some linebackers. But you made a lot of strides last year, especially defensively. Then additions like Alvin Kamara never hurt. I think you could add a receiver, but I think the Saints are a team that could be dangerous and could be one of the teams that the Eagles should look out for. Also, the Rams being one of them. Rams have 2 character issues at corner, says Rick Badboy. I don't think Talib's necessarily a character issue anymore. He hasn't really been one since 2012. I don't remember a situation where Aqib Talib off the field has been an issue. On the field, of course, he's had some spats with Michael Crabtree, but besides that, that's just the style of play that Aqib Talib plays with. Other than that, I don't think he's really an issue. I think Marcus Peters is one, but I don't know about Aqib Talib at this point. Yeah, the Patriots keep being second in trades. They're kind of the loser right now. Benjamin says, question for Rams fans, do you only need a linebacker? Yes, they need a linebacker. I don't think they need to re-sign Watkins, though. I don't think they will re-sign Watkins. They might have their hand in re-signing Watkins, but I think Watkins is going to have a bigger market than I think the Rams will be able to dive into. I think the Rams are fine at receiver without Sammy Watkins. Maybe they'll add one again in the draft, but I really don't think that they are in a different free agent. Maybe they'll go after a Paul Richardson or someone different. But I think that overall Watkins will just be too pricey for them. And from what he gave them from a production standpoint, I really think that Sammy Watkins, he's a good player, but I don't think he's like a game changer weapon. So I think that Sammy Watkins is probably going to go to like a team that needs a receiver more, maybe like a Chicago or something like that. And I'll have my free agency predictions out soon. I was working on it today, so it will be out very soon. Ricky says Denver. Oh, something about Denver. Ricky says Denver messed up because they didn't get a higher pick, but they also won because they freed up cap space. Well, Ricky, I think they won from their point of view because they needed to get rid of him. They were going to get rid of him. They were rather going to release him or trade him. And to get at least anything for him, like a 6th, a 7th, anything would have been good and productive. So they got a 5th, which is good. So that means that the Patriots and the Rams were in somewhat of a bidding war for his services, because when you see a guy that's this close to getting released, usually would go for a 7th or a 6th. Instead, he goes for a 5th because the Patriots and Rams are in a little bit of a bidding war for his service. He's too old. He's still pretty good, though. I don't know. He could obviously drop off, but Ricky says Denver needs to sign Malcolm Butler. I don't know if they do. Mel says, I'm saying it first, Rams win the Super Bowl. He wanted to go to the Raiders. I don't know if he means Sherman or Talib, but Talib never made it known that he wanted to go to the Raiders. Mel said that the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. I think the Rams need to make some moves. I think they're weak up front. They've lost a linebacker and a DN, and they haven't replaced them yet. So I need to see them do that. Yeah, their secondary has gotten an upgrade. But I think overall as a team, I don't know if I can say that. They've lost 3 players to 2. So we know Tremaine Johnson's not coming back. In my opinion, Tremaine Johnson was better than both of those guys last year, Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib. Now, obviously, having those 2 guys over just Tremaine Johnson and let's say Nickel Roby-Coleman, I don't know if he's going to be back as the slot corner, depending on his market. But I think those 2 guys are better than what Tremaine Johnson gave him, obviously. But then who's replacing Robert Quinn and Ogletree? So they still need to make moves there in order to be in that conversation. And as a guy that watched a lot of Rams games last year and, watches a lot of football, I'm not exactly sold on Jared Goff. I think there could be, maybe given a different quarterback, I would be a lot more confident in the Rams, but I still think that that Jared Goff is a guy that I feel like is good. He's serviceable, but I don't feel like he is in that conversation where you can ultimately insert the Rams as a playoff team and a contender because they have Jared Goff. Like he's serviceable, but I don't think he's great at this point. RVDECW, I don't know how to pronounce that, bro. Says, what quarterback that was signed to a big contract will the team regret first? Could you restate the question with some options and then I'll choose the option because I can't off the top of my head. Obviously, the big one is Joe Flacco, which they've already regretted. So if I had to answer the question just like that, it's Joe Flacco. But if you want to give me some options, then I'll definitely answer that. Aaron says Rams got a steal. Rams definitely got a steal. But I think that they could have probably signed him. I wonder what's going to happen actually with the contract situation because Talib is expected to make, I think, 18+ million the next 2 years. And if I'm the Rams, I might consider restructuring him to make a little bit less, but we'll see. They might just go with that. 18 million over the next 2 years is not too bad. It averages out to 9 million for that guy, but it could be more. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's a pretty good price. But I heard that, before the trade was made, if he were to go to the Patriots, that the Patriots would consider restructuring his contract. So maybe the Rams will do the same. I hate the Redskins, but they have been smart to not overpay Kirk Cousins. Oh, so you're saying that Kirk Cousins would be a regret. I like Kirk Cousins, and sort of just the market itself kind of dictates that he gets overpaid. It's not his fault. It's not because he's the best quarterback in the league, which he's not. But in my opinion, he's a top 10 quarterback. He's a great quarterback, and I think he's a guy that, if given the right team, the right situation, could definitely win the Super Bowl. If he went to Minnesota, I think he could be right there, with the Eagles as the best team in the NFC and arguably the best team in the NFL, and they could go all the way and win. So I don't think Kirk Cousins, it's going to be an interesting market for Kirk Cousins this year. The Jets are definitely going to pay him the most. It's going to be interesting to see if he decides to go where he gets paid the most or where he can win. We'll see. Nick West says Sherman is heading to Atlanta for sure. Quinn will get the best out of what's left of him. I would agree that would be one of the areas. Now, I think Atlanta would be an interesting situation. I said it yesterday. I think Atlanta is a team that I think overall, they're a team that doesn't really need a corner. But if, like I said, Sherman is a guy that gets released and he waits till July or August to get signed, maybe even June, depends on his recovery. If he's a guy that gets signed in July, then a team like Atlanta, a team like Jacksonville could sneak up and grab him. Now, if he were to get traded, obviously a team with more cornerback needs would go and get him. But at the current point in time, we don't know what's going to happen with Sherman. We'll see. But I think the longer it goes without him being signed, the more likely he goes to a team like Atlanta, to answer that comment. Aaron says, where is Aaron? You guys have a lot of comments. I'm trying to sneak up here. Rams look good at defense, making moves. They definitely do. The worst quarterback contract's Joe Flacco. Yeah, I agree. Mr. Mike says, seriously, NFC West is getting crazy. And like I've been saying, I'm riding that 49ers train. So I'm trying to see what the 49ers are going to do to counteract the Rams. It's going to be very exciting. Rick Badboy says, yeah, I don't think they need to re-sign Watkins, but they need another decent receiver. I do think so. I don't think Robert Woods is necessarily a guy that is a number one, but he has worked out for them, and Cooper Kupp's a pretty good guy as well. But I think they need to add another dude. Patel says, hey, what's up, U.S. Boston sports fan? I'm a Patriots fan. I'm actually from Vancouver, Canada. So just in regards to Boston, I tend to cheer for, and I'm in Toronto right now for school. So that's why I'm wearing a Raptors shirt because, But I like the Lakers and the Raptors a little in basketball. I don't really like the Raptors, but I'm in Toronto, so I tend to cheer for them a little bit. But I like the Lakers in basketball because, of Kobe and the age I am, and just I've always loved Kobe. So, but I love the Patriots since I was like 5 years old, and maybe even before that. Who knows what my memory serves me? And then I like the Canucks. I like the Penguins. In hockey. So those are my teams. In baseball, I'm not really a huge fan, but I do tend to cheer for the Red Sox just because of my Patriots connection. So if I had another Boston connection, it would be the Red Sox overall. Steelers Nation said, the Patriots lost. Killen Boy says the Patriots need to get Preston Brown, Kyle Fuller, or Sherman. I don't know what the Kyle Fuller thing is. I would be intrigued with Kyle Fuller. The thing about the Kyle Fuller thing is he's on a transition tag, which means that any offer that is given to Kyle Fuller would be matched by the Bears if given so. But I think Kyle Fuller is an interesting name. I also think a guy like E.J. Gaines is pretty interesting. I definitely think watch out for Josh Norman. That could be an interesting name as well, being traded. And I think, Tremaine Johnson could be in there, but I think he might be too much. Obviously, Malcolm Butler's out of the door. But I think the Patriots are definitely going to go out there and get a veteran corner. Somebody, we don't know who it's going to be, but somebody. We'll see. Patrick Robinson, maybe. We'll see what happens. So Doug Martin, I think would be interesting. Obviously, if they lose Dion Lewis, which it looks like is going to happen, Doug Martin wouldn't be a bad ad. I think that the Patriots are more likely to draft a running back, though. I think that they're more likely to sign linebackers and corners in free agency and draft a running back. They could also go out and get another veteran guy, but I think, Rex Burkhead's probably likely to re-sign, and they also have James White and Mike Gillislee, so I think that they'll probably get another, or maybe a rookie. If they think a guy that has good potential in a draft, they'll go out there and get somebody. Philly 500 says, yo, what's up, everybody? They still can't handle my Eagles. What's going on, Philly 500? So haven't seen you in a while. Aiden says, hi, dude. What's going on, Aiden? Killing Boys says, Steelers Nation. What you mean? Answer him. Rick Badboy says, Goff has to take another step. I agree. What was the worst quarterback contract over the last 2 years? Who were the quarterback contracts over the last few years? Now you're making me look this up. QB salaries. 2018. All right. So obviously Stafford got paid. Carr, I believe, got paid. Garoppolo got paid. Did Luck get paid? It was that 3 years ago. Luck is a pretty bad contract just because he's not playing, but that's not really their fault. Derek Carr looks to be a terrible contract at this point in time because he had a really bad season after a really good one. Joe Flacco is one way back. But I think overall it's probably between Derek Carr. I don't think the Jimmy G one is bad. It could end up being bad. But I think Derek Carr and Andrew Luck, it's between them two for me. I think Stafford is a stud, so that's warranted for me. Continuing on, who runs the Patriots? It's Rob Kraft. Michael says, do I need to be worried about we haven't signed Breeze yet? No, I think Breeze is going to be back like 99%. I don't think it's likely that he leaves. I think Andy Dalton's contract was one of the worst ones. What did Andy Dalton get paid? It says he got paid. Like Andy Dalton's being paid as the 18th best quarterback in the league. He's paid less than Blake Bortles. So, and if you know how I feel about Blake Bortles, he's terrible. I think that that's not a terrible deal for them. And I'm not a huge Andy Dalton fan, but that's just how I feel. Todd Gurley is the best running back in the league. I don't personally think that. I think he's a top 5 back. We actually discussed this on our last live stream. I think he's a top 5 back, but I wouldn't call him the best back. He might have been the best back during the year last year, but like you still have, in my opinion, the best of the best is Le'Veon, David Johnson, and Zeke. And I think Gurley is right under them. And you also have to factor in like LaShawn McCoy and those sort of guys too. So I think Todd Gurley's in the conversation, but I'd rather have a Le'Veon or a David Johnson who was hurt this year. I'm really happy to see that he's coming back because, man, I love watching that guy play. And then Zeke. I think Zeke is special as well. Look out for Saquon Barkley for those draft guys. Philly 500 says, I want to see Cousins can win big games. I like him, though. That is kind of something that he hasn't really been proven to do. Do you feel Jared Goff is comparable to Joe Flacco at this point in Goff's career? I don't know, because Flacco like right away started winning, and it wasn't necessarily because of him. I think Jared Goff was okay last year, but I just think the thing about Goff is like everything is manufactured for him. Like I feel like his offense with McVay is very manufactured. It suits his skill sets 100%. He doesn't really have to make a lot of terrible, hard decisions. He doesn't have to make a lot of hard throws. I think a lot of it is set up for him. There's a lot of open receivers because of the greatness of Sean McVay. So I think just given that a lot of other quarterbacks would be better than him in that system, that's just what I'm trying to get at. I don't know if he's really comparable to Joe Flacco because they're totally different players. Like it's hard to really justify, like the closest thing I could say is like Matt Ryan this year in terms of statistics compared to Matt Ryan last year with Kyle Shanahan. Like the drop off of the MVP to like Matt Ryan this year, even though Matt Ryan I think had a good year this year. Like I know the stats didn't show it as much, but I thought that he played a good year. That's like the comparable thing. Like I feel like Goff wouldn't be the same guy because he's in a system that allows him to be good for me. Ricky Gray says Le'Veon Bell is the best running back. I agree. Killin' Boys says something about the Packers. Patriots are done, says Steelers Nation. Well, we'll see about that. Do you feel the bigger problem in Dallas is Dallas's receivers or Dak? I think it's the receivers because I think it's in part mostly the receivers. So I think the receivers because they lack separation. Des Bryant is being overpaid at this point. He's arguably the most overrated player in the league, which I'm going to get to that video as well sometime soon. But I think just they lack separation. There's nobody that can beat guys one-on-one. When they play teams that are good at man and they kind of just suffocate the receivers, like Cole Beasley is their best guy at shaking a corner one-on-one. And once you take him away, I mean, Dez is a guy that relies a lot on, jump balls. And he's a lot like Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey is not necessarily going to beat you in a route and just beat you and get separation from his speed and quickness and his ability to separate like a guy like Antonio Brown does or a Julian Edelman in their ability to beat guys one-on-one. But like Dez is a guy that needs the ball to be thrown up and put in a situation where he can beat him because corners are always covering Dez. He's just able to catch it. You never really see Dez wide open. So that's kind of my thing. And guys like the rest of the receivers, Terrence Williams is just like he's just there. And they need another receiver. They need a guy that can separate and win one-on-one matchups. And Jason Witten used to be that guy, but he can't do that anymore because he's too slow. But Dak, I think definitely he's okay. I don't think he's great. He's okay. I think he is a serviceable quarterback. I think he does have his assets and his skills, but he definitely isn't Tony Romo, in my opinion. Killin' Boys says, whoa, skip that. Killin' Boy says the Patriots and the Jags will beat y'all all day. Hashtag rape Steelers. Please don't put rape. I got critiqued for saying that one time. Fireblaze Gaming says stick to WWE. We haven't done WWE in a long time, bro. But if you guys are WWE fans and you used to watch our content in WWE, myself and Dylan were actually like talking about it. I don't know if we would ever go back to doing WWE stuff, but like if there's enough people that would like us to do something revolving wrestling, then we would consider bringing it back. We just don't like the current product because it sucks. That's just our opinion. The NHL needs a marquee rivalry like they had in Detroit, Colorado. Well, really, I know Pittsburgh sort of dominated it, but my personal favorite rivalry over the past 10 years has been Pittsburgh-Washington. That's been the best rivalry in the NHL for me. Brandon Williams says it kind of says that they would rather trade Aqib Talib to the NFC than to an AFC rival. I agree with that. Steelers Nation says, who you got going to the Super Bowl next year? Man, right now it's way too early, but I think you got to say the Eagles are back in that game at this point. I don't know, if you could really argue against the Eagles. But if in the AFC, it's tough. I think the Patriots have got to be at the top of the list. I don't want to say that it's a rematch at this point in time. I think the Jaguars could be in there. But like nobody in the AFC has really done anything yet, right? So I don't know if I could really say it's anybody different because nothing's happened yet. The free agency hasn't happened yet. The draft hasn't happened yet. So let me answer that question in a couple of months, at least after like the core of free agency is done. Then maybe I can answer that question. But like nothing's really happened. In the NFC, stuff's happened, like the Rams and the Eagles and some stuff like that. But I still think the Eagles are at the top. I think the Eagles would probably be the favorite, just to answer that question. Jimmy Garoppolo is the worst since he is the most unproven. I believe in Jimmy though, so that's why I didn't put him at that level. Rick Bad Boy says still waiting on the Bills to get rid of Taylor. Still waiting on the Bills to get rid of Taylor. Don't get why they are keeping him. Personally, I don't dislike Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback. I think he could do worse than Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback, but like I understand. I don't know. Are you a Bills fan? I'm not sure, Rick Bad Boy. But I think the Bills are probably going to get rid of him. I don't know if they can release him straight up, and I don't know the contract situation. But I've always kind of said about if the Jags are going to want another quarterback, I think Tyrod Taylor would be a great add to kind of push Blake Bortles into some competition, in my opinion. What else? Okay, I already read those. Zeke is overrated, says Steelers Nation. Zeke is the best back, says Mr. Mike. Joe Flacco and Eli Manning are very similar. That's true. Kenneth says, do you think that Josh Allen can go to my Jets in the draft? I definitely think so, because from a lot of mock drafts, and I've been different. I've said that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are the best quarterbacks in the draft. A lot of other people seem to have Sam Darnold, and I don't know why. But I think that Josh Allen could definitely squeak to the Jets, and he's a stud. So if I was a Jets fan, I would definitely want him on my team. What did the Jets pick, like 6th overall? So I think like the only other team, if the Browns don't pick him, which it doesn't seem like they will, but who knows? So the Browns will probably go a quarterback and then another player. So what I'm leaning towards is that the Browns pick Saquon at number 1, and number 2 is who's number 2? The Giants and the Colts. So there's the Giants and the Colts. I think. Okay, wait. The Browns could pick the quarterback at number 1. The thing about the Giants is I thought that they might have traded back to get a linebacker, but now that they're still at number 2 and they got Ogletree, this means that they definitely want Barkley. If he's there, they're going to pick Barkley. So if the Browns pick a quarterback at number 1, Barkley's going to go number 2. But if Barkley goes number 1, the Browns will get a quarterback at 4. Chubb will probably go 3 to the Colts. And then you have 5. I don't remember who number 5 is. But is it number 5 the Jets or number 6 the Jets? So I think that 5 might be the Broncos. I'm not sure, though. So I think the Broncos or the Jets could get Allen. Because I think Elway might be a fan of Allen, but we'll see. I don't know. I think I would like Allen on my team if I was in your situation. Rick Badboy says, would you take Owens right now or for Des Bryant? No. They need a tight end that is a matchup nightmare. Jason Witten never had the speed, but Jason Witten was very good. He's a Hall of Famer. Is Malcolm Butler going to stick with the Pats? No. Rob said, as a Rams fan, I'm excited as hell, man. Yeah, you should be excited. I think it's some pretty crazy like stuff that you guys have been doing. I think you definitely, like I said earlier, need to improve your front seven, but your secondary is complete. You don't need to touch it. Brandon says no. Michael says, can Sharp outrun Jason Witten? Probably. Ricky says WrestleMania 34. Other than that, yeah, we might consider doing that. We'll see. I'm not going into it this year. I've gone to it the last 2 years, so I can actually like do something with that. I might. We'll see. Ran Matendo 77, I think that's how you pronounce it. Says, so even after trading their 5th round, the Rams still have a ton of picks in the draft, although many are lower rounds, but I think they have a lot of chances to pick up a hidden gem. Obviously, every team has a lot of chances to pick up a hidden gem, but we'll see. They had a good draft last year, so we'll see if they continue that. But I really like what I've seen from the Sean McVay era so far. So Detroit, Colorado was the best hockey rivalry over the last 25 years. Yeah, it definitely was, because they they swapped cups a couple of years there, and they had great players. Yzerman, Sakic, those were great teams. Brandon Williams says, which organization in your mind needs to make the biggest impact in free agency? For me, it's the Packers, because they have ignored giving Aaron Rodgers a good team around him. I'd agree with that one. I think the Steelers would be in there. I think the Patriots would be in there. I think all these teams are against their window and they need to make it happen. I also think the Cowboys need to make a big free agency happen. But in terms of an entire offseason, I've said this already. I've said this in a separate video. I think there's pressure on the Cleveland Browns. Honestly, they need to have a big free agency this year in terms of the draft. They need to have a huge draft. They need to hit on their picks. They've so much invested in this year in their draft that if they hit, they could be the best team in the NFL in 2 years. And if they don't, they could be stuck where they are. So for me, the Browns are in there, but also teams like the Patriots, the Steelers, and the Packers, teams that I think need to start hitting and getting, need to start. I know the Patriots have been doing this for like ever, but like these teams need their last chance. And I guess the Saints in a way too. I think you would throw the Saints in there as well. Rick Badboy says, not a Bills fan, just want to see them good again. I'm sold that Barkley's going to the Giants, says Rick Badboy. 5 is Broncos, 6 is Jets. Yeah, so I think one of those teams will take Allen. And if they don't, they're kind of stupid, in my opinion. Sean says he's not going to stay when they did him dirty. Yeah, you're right. Barkley's going to the Giants. They'll score themselves. They'll score themselves next 10 years. I don't know what you mean. But Barkley with OBJ would be absolutely phenomenal. That would be nuts. I don't know how you would stop that, to be honest. Philly 500 says Browns should draft Barkley 1 and at number 4, I kind of like Allen. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that for sure. Steelers Nation says, do you think Ronnie Harrison is a great quarterback? I haven't really looked at Ronnie Harrison, to be quite honest with you, so I can't really answer that question. Once I get into deeper like things, because I'm sort of covering like the top players in the draft. But once we get to Ronnie Harrison, I've heard some things about him. Obviously he's from Alabama. I tend to be biased and like players from Alabama, even though I'm not an Alabama fan. I like the players they produce. So we'll see. Do you mean Ronnie Harrison, the safety? Or you mean Ronnie Harrison, a quarterback? Ronnie Harrison, a quarterback? There's a quarterback? Ronnie Harrison? Do you mean the safety? I'm confused. Is there a quarterback named Ronnie Harrison? No, there's a safety. I think you're confused or you just put the wrong thing. Barkley's Brown Bound. BBB. Triple B. Derwin James is the best strong safety. Yeah, I'll get to safeties eventually. I'm currently on linebackers. So once I get to safety, I'll talk about him. Oh, he's your favorite college player. The Browns will end up messing it up and trading both picks. Yeah, probably. Eric Fick, sorry, bro, says, who did the Broncos get at quarterback? Who is their best option? So in my opinion, if I was the Broncos, I know they still believe in Paxton Lynch somewhat. So I think that throws a wrench into it somewhat. To me, I think the best quarterback, in my opinion, the best quarterbacks in the draft are Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So those are the quarterbacks I like the most. Now, when talking about the Broncos, I think Josh Allen is the better option because I don't think they have the offensive promise and the offensive scheme ability to kind of fit Lamar Jackson. I think Josh Allen is more of a transferable athlete. He's more of a guy that can fit more situations, which is why I've kind of been leaning towards Josh Allen as the best quarterback and then Lamar number 2. But I like them both a lot. When looking at free agency, I think they might bring in a guy like Case Keenum. I think that's going to happen. Now, would I do that? I don't know. He's kind of a stopgap in my opinion. I don't think he's anything great. But I have heard that they do like him. Bridgewater could be another situation where you could hit low, pay him sort of a low contract. I think honestly though, they should draft a quarterback. If I was them, I would draft a quarterback and it would be Allen. The Broncos are out on Lynch, and I think they will flat out release him. I don't think so. I think they still want to give him a chance. He's a first-round pick. I don't think they're going to just sell out on him this fast, but we'll see. I don't know where you're hearing that. Rick Badboy says, I see the Giants drafting Barkley and finding quarterback in the later rounds. I think the Giants aren't exactly into drafting a quarterback quite yet to be their franchise guy. I think they're still waiting on Eli to retire, and then they're going to draft one. So I think, getting Barkley would be ideal, but it depends on if the Browns are going to take him at number 1. If the Giants draft Barkley when Eli goes, though, they'll have no quarterback, and they'll end up being 8-8, 9-7 every year. Well, they need a quarterback, obviously. But I think if they get Barkley this year, they have OBJ, they sign him, and then they get a quarterback next year or the year after, you'd be talking about a Giants team that, and the defense isn't too far off. You could be talking about a Giants team that could be competitive in the next couple of years. Rand says, I predict the Rams will re-sign Sammy Watkins, and they'll use their first on a nasty edge rusher, third nose tackle, and the rest to solidify their defensive line. That could very well happen. I don't know. I don't think, though. I'm leaning towards that the Rams are not going to re-sign Sammy Watkins, but we'll see. What team do you think Mason Rudolph would be the best fit with? You never hear a lot about him. I've actually heard that Mason Rudolph could be a target for the Patriots. I don't necessarily believe that that's a great fit, though. I don't know, because I'm thinking about where he's going to be drafted. Obviously, Mason Rudolph is going to be drafted in the late first, early second round. So that being said, thinking about that, now if a team like the Giants weren't going to go there, like I don't know how much I really believe in Mason Rudolph. I think he's okay. He could be a potential starter, but I really am just like, I don't know. He's the 6th best quarterback, right, in this draft. Like, and I haven't spent as much time on him as I have the other 5 guys, not nearly as much. So, like, when looking at the back of the first round, you could maybe see a team like Pittsburgh draft him or the Saints, but that's unlikely. So I think the second round is probably where he goes, and maybe goes to a team like the Chargers. They might need a quarterback in the future, and maybe a team like the Saints, the Steelers, the Patriots. Those teams are all kind of teams that could take him. The Giants could take him early in the second round. We'll see. But I don't know. I don't know the exact fit that would be best, but those are the teams that I would think would target him in that area. Will Allen Robinson be a good fit for my Saints? I don't think Robinson will be going to the Saints. I don't think that they would be willing to spend that much on a receiver. I think they're more likely to draft one or just get a lower end guy. I actually think the Saints are very likely going to get Jimmy Graham back, which will obviously help their receiving game in general. Do you think the Rams are making a mistake getting 2 talented yet somewhat troublesome quarterbacks? cornerbacks that could potentially hurt the locker room. Like I said earlier, I think Talib is not an issue. I think Talib actually could be a positive outlook on the team. I think he could bring a strong presence in the locker room. I think he could bring veteran leadership. I think he could bring experience, and he obviously is good with Wade Phillips, and he's acted as a good citizen in Denver and in New England. The last time he was like a poor guy off the field was in like 2012. So I don't think that he's much of an issue anymore. But I think Marcus Peters is definitely the one to worry about. We'll see with Marcus Peters, but maybe the new situation he's in and being in LA could be a distraction, but I think it would be fine. Alpha says, good night, Michael. Alpha says, imagine if the Rams grab a wide receiver to replace Watkins, Landry, or Robinson. Do you see it happening? I don't think that will happen. Given the salary situation, I don't think anyone's really going to touch Landry. Maybe a really desperate team, but I don't see the Rams being that desperate. And Landry's also slot receiver, which Cooper Kupp already plays. So I'd just cross Landry off that list. Robinson, I think he's going to get too much money. I don't think Robinson's going back to Jacksonville. I think he's going to go to like a team like Carolina, Baltimore, Chicago, maybe the 49ers, somewhere like that where he could get the money. And I don't think the Rams will be a team that will be after him. Again, I think the Rams would rather go after a mid-tier veteran signing or draft another guy. Rick Badboy says, hey, what's your guys' take on Winston if the Bucs don't make the playoffs again? I see the head coach getting fired. I think Winston kind of has a kind of a long leash, I guess, not a short leash, the opposite. I think Winston might be under pressure this year if he doesn't perform. If he doesn't perform again this year, then next year we'll be talking about something totally different. But I think Winston still has the talent to make it happen. I'm still a believer in Winston, so we'll see. But I think the head coach is definitely on the hot seat regardless. OKJ, I keep screwing that up, says Landry would be a monster with the Patriots. I agree. In that system, he would be great. But I don't think that's going to happen because the Patriots have too many receivers and Landry's getting too much money. Like he's getting like 14 million for like a slot guy and Edelman makes like 5. Zay says, do you think the Chiefs should trade up for a linebacker or a corner this year? Argue maybe a corner. They do need middle linebacker help. I don't know if they'll trade up though. What's their draft slot, like 20 something, 22 or something like that? I don't know. I'm just guessing. I think that there could be corners in that range. I definitely think that there could be corners in that range that they could get. I don't know if they need to trade up though, unless they really are in love with a guy like Edmonds. That could happen, but I think that they traded up last year, so I don't think they're likely to trade up this year. They don't have a first round pick. Oh, okay, yeah. Would they get rid of their first round pick in the Mahomes deal? Yeah, they don't have a first rounder. I still don't think they're going to trade up because like what assets did they have to trade up with? I'm going to actually look at their picks. Let's look at their picks. I don't think they have enough assets to trade up unless they trade a pick next year. I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, I think like those, you're right on with those positions. I think those positions are positions of need, but I don't think that they will trade up. So to answer your question, they might actually trade down again to get more picks. That could happen. What do you think of Marcus Davenport? I've done a video ranking the defensive ends. I'm not a huge fan of Marcus Davenport. He's very raw. I feel like he's a guy that doesn't have a lot of just technical skills. You know, he's just a guy that, like, overall, when doing my scouting report, he dominated. He was against poor competition, but he dominated. He's an athletic freak. That's a positive. But he's not very technical. He's not very good with his hands. He kind of seems out of place. He had a poor Senior Bowl. I'm just not overall sold on Marcus Davenport as, you know, first rounder. Like, I feel like he could be a bottom end first rounder, but as a top end first rounder, I'd like a little bit more polish to his game. And Overall, he's just an athletic guy that wins a lot on his size and his speed and not necessarily on his actual technical prowess. And I feel like that drafting a guy that high would not be positive in my book. Now, if you were to go to a defense and let's say he went to like Detroit, and I have a lot of confidence that a guy like Davenport could be good in Detroit because I'm a big believer in Matt Patricia as a defensive coach and as a guy that can get a lot out of a defensive player. So if you were to go to a certain good situation and with a team with a need for that sort of player, then I think it could work. But I think like I think I ranked him like 4th or 5th as edge rushers. So for me, I just feel like there's a lot of better options. But obviously, teams will draft him higher than I have him because he is the athletic freak he is, and that's what people look for in the draft, as they should, because they're looking to project and they're looking for potential. They're not necessarily looking for polish, but I think that you do need that polish to get drafted that high. That's just my opinion. I'm a first rounder. Don says, if there are any Giants fans here, what should I know about Owa Odigagua? I always mess that name. I don't even know how to say that name. But yeah, so he's good. I like him a lot. I think he's a good player. Let me dive a little bit more into him. So he was a 3rd round pick. Yeah, he hasn't played a lot. He played 4 games, but I think he's a guy that could have maybe some potential. Like I'm always a fan of those signings. I shouldn't have said I like him a lot. I just mean that he's a guy that has some potential. And to get a 1-year contract for a guy that was drafted in the 3rd round, has some good measurables. There's always some promise to that sort of thing. Like as a Patriots fan, I'm always a fan of those sort of things that they do, and they sign these like kind of reclamation projects. And to me, that's not terrible. Like it's a small signing, but it could be decent. Who's your sleeper guy in the draft? I don't know if I have one yet. Get back to me when the draft is there. Right now it's Lamar, because damn it, he's a sleeper because he's being overlooked so much because he's a black quarterback. Who else would be? Like I've really like the positions I've studied like extremely in depth are defensive end and quarterback. So those are the ones that I can really talk about like in depth. I'm getting into the linebackers now, so maybe I'll have a sleeper at linebacker. But yeah, ask me that question at the draft or like closer to the draft, and I'll definitely have a list. Maybe I'll come out with a list. We'll see. Jesus, there's a lot of questions. Do you think the Chiefs should give away a 3rd and Chris Conley for 1st rounder? If they could do that, I would do it. I like Chris Conley though, but I don't know if they would get a 1st rounder for Chris Conley in a 3rd. I think you might be reaching there. Alpha says, who's your team? Who do you want to see drafted? I'm a Patriots fan. But someone said you don't get it. Thanks, Kill 'em, boys. Alpha says, who's your team? Who do you want to see get? So I'm a Patriots fan. I would like to see them get a D end or see. I'm actually in the camp. I brought him up a lot already in this video. If Lamar Jackson is there, pick him 100%. If you're able to trade up for him, pick him because he needs. I love this guy. He's going to be really good in the NFL, and if he's able to be the Brady successor, I'm all for it. Now, other than that, I think that the Patriots obviously need 3 positions the most. They need an edge rusher, they need a linebacker, and they need a corner. I think that they'll solve at least 2 of those things in free agency, and probably both. But I think their top need is an edge rusher. So what I would like to see is them get an edge rusher in the draft. Whether that is a Landry, Hubbard, or a Key, someone like that. I don't necessarily have a number 1 guy I want to see them get, but those positions and specifically the edge rusher, and whichever one Belichick feels is best for the system, then I'm down for that. I'm not too picky. Where do you think Richard Sherman could end up? Would the Packers make sense to you? Yeah, they would make sense to a certain degree. They definitely need corner. They definitely need help in the secondary, and Green Bay definitely needs help on defense. And Richard Sherman would probably want to go to a team that can win, and obviously he has a history with Aaron Rodgers. I think that Richard Sherman would want to go to Green Bay. I don't know if he necessarily fits the scheme 100%, but they would be in the talk. Like, I don't think they would be at the top of the list, but they would definitely be in there somewhere. But you also have to think about that Green Bay isn't a team that traditionally spends a lot in free agency. So, I don't know. Again, with the whole Richard Sherman situation, this could be a guy that doesn't sign until the middle of summer. Like, it depends on his injury. It depends on when teams can work him out. So there's a lot of questions with Richard Sherman. But I think Richard Sherman on the Packers would be pretty cool. Alpha says, I really want the Raiders to take Sherman, even with the team running under Gruden. I think there's a good chance that Sherman could go to the Raiders. I think it would be a better chance than the Packers. Jim says Sherman and Kirk Cousins could go anywhere. No, I think Cousins between two places, the Jets or the Vikings. Raiders says Conley and a third aren't enough. Conley, man, for a first round. Yeah, I know Conley's a good receiver, but like that's not enough. It would have to be like Conley in a second, at least probably. Conley in a second, I don't even know. Not Tyreek Hill. I wouldn't trade Tyreek Hill in a million years. He's too rare. He's too special. Jim says, with Talib, a new player for the Rams, does this team need any more? No, this draft is enough. I think they need pass rusher. I think they need linebackers. Like I said, I think they need a receiver. They could use help on the offensive line. There's plenty of areas to improve. Obviously, that you have the draft, but I think a couple more free agency signings would be nice. Thoughts on Josh Jackson? Josh Jackson. Whew. So like I said, I will get to that. I will get to that point when I talk about Josh Jackson. So you could wait till then when I talk about him. This was supposed to just be about Talib, but I've been going on forever answering your Q&A. But this is a guy that obviously is a ball hawk. Coming out 27, pass defense, 8 interceptions in his career. I think that he could be a guy that he didn't run too fast and at the 40-yard dash. I think he could be a guy that goes at probably the middle of the first. He is comparable to like Marcus Peters. So I don't know, like who you looking to draft him. We'll see when I really dive into his tape. But like what I know about him, he's a ball hawk. He's comparable to Marcus Peters. He's probably going to go in the middle of the first round. Yeah, he's good player, positive, not really any off the field, anything like that. Been a guy that started for a couple of years. He's been an All-American. Like he's been really, really good. Not a lot of flaws to his game. The only real flaw that he has from what I can recall is that he's like a 1-year guy. Like he hasn't played much more than 1 year. So that's a question about him. But like once I get more into the study of him, then I'll let you know and I'll make a video about it. Bradley Chubb isn't a pass rusher. What do you mean Bradley Chubb isn't a pass rusher? What do you mean about that? Bradley Chubb is a defensive end. He's not necessarily, I don't think he's necessarily the best pass rusher in the draft. If that's what you're trying to say, I would agree with you because that's what I said in my scouting report as well. But I think that he is definitely a good defensive end. He's a good all-around defensive end. Zay says, I think Mahomes needs a year to prove himself. I think Mahomes is a beast. So we'll see. I think he was my number one quarterback coming out. I had him and Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun obviously looks great, but Mahomes didn't really get a chance to play. We'll see what happens, but I'm a big fan of Mahomes. I think he will be good this year. Maybe not great because he's a rookie, but because this is his real rookie season, but we'll see. Anyways, guys, man, this is a lot of questions. I think I'm gonna go. Do you think Adam Thielen is a 1-year bust? No, he's not. Trying to answer these questions very quickly. Mitch, why are you so smart? I don't know. I study a lot. Also, why do the Pats only have 19 million in cap space? They have 20 something in cap space, I think. Since they released Bennett, they have like 24 or something like that. You have to recheck that. Go to something. I don't know what site give you that. Maybe like Sports Track. You could try that. I'd love for us to get Rosen. I'm just scared of the trade value. Dawn, I don't remember what your favorite team was. I've been answering all these questions, bro. I'm sorry about that. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed the Q&A. I may need to add Q&A to the title because, damn, this was long. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more NFL from the Bottom Line View. It's Mitch. We'll be back. And actually, my next video coming out probably tomorrow will be my free agency predictions. And the way I'll be releasing it is I'll have a full in-depth video that's a long-form video about all the players in free, like a lot of players, like 10 players at every position. So it'll be like your guide to free agency, like my predictions on every freaking player. And then I'll release like individual short videos of me talking about that player in the long video, if that makes any sense, on the channel as well. So like the big players like Kirk Cousins, Dion Lewis, Allen Robinson, those guys will get separate videos, but I'll have one long video for also like the smaller guys, like the Derek Johnsons and those sort of guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out.